And gambling to me, is one of the most peculiar ones because it's so overwhelming for people that are hooked on gambling. It's such a mental health issue. It's such an addiction. And when you see people that are just like chasing it and they just can't stop, it's like I always wonder like what pathway is being hijacked. Like what is about human beings that want to risk like literally all of their money on a roll of the dice or on a spin of the roulette wheel or on a hand of cards. Like, what is that?
Yeah, this is a good question. Now, this Zental guy that I told you about, he does a lot of research on pigeons. So he can basically turn a pigeon into a degenerate gambler in like 2 minutes. He'll give
pigeon?
A pigeon, dude. He'll give them, yeah. I said
that sounds cruel.
I said the same thing when I was talking to him.
Isn't life hard enough as a pigeon?
Yeah. He'll get pigeons who, they live in these cages, and he'll give them the option to play a game where every other peck, they get, say, 15 units of food. So peck, no food. Peck, 15 units of food. But then they have an option to play a second game. And this second game is very much a gambling game in that they get food about every fifth peck, but it's random, right? So you could go peck, peck, food, peck, peck. The next one could be food, peck, 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 right? So it's just kind of like a slot machine. Mm-hmm. And they get more food playing the gambling game. They get 20 units. If you do the math, it makes a lot more sense to play the game where you get every other, right? Every other peck is getting you food. It adds up to a lot more food. But what he finds is that the pigeons consistently play the slot machine game. 97% of pigeons will choose that game.
Right, but they're not risking anything.
They're not risking anything, right? But it's
so how's that gambling?
They're still putting in the effort to have to play the game.
Yeah, but that seems obvious. Like the rewards are greater. So they know that if they just keep pecking, it doesn't hurt to peck. They're going to get a bigger supply of food.
They don't get a bigger supply, though, because they'll get 15 every other peck versus 20 every fifth peck. So if you put in 100 pecks, you're going to get more food playing the one where you get food every other time.
Right, but it's still not gambling because the pigeon just sees a larger pile of food with the more pecks. So just wants the larger pile of food, so it just keeps going. It's not like they're risking all their food.
Right.
So I don't think it's a gambling thing.
Well, the larger pile of food comes from the predictable rewards.
Yes, right. If you do every other, right?
Yeah, every other is how you would get the biggest pile of food.
But you don't get the biggest pile in one dump, right? The one where it's every 5, that's a larger quantity of food.
Yeah, so you'd get 20.
Yeah, see, that's not gambling.
Why is it not gambling?
Because it's just more effort. It's more effort to get a bigger pile.
So he would argue that
they're just dumb. They just can't say, oh, it's every other one. Well, all they see is that they're getting, whatever, 15 units versus 20. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
15 versus
20. All
20.
they know is 20 units. Like, oh, this one gives 20 units. Just keep pecking. I don't think they're smart enough to figure that out. I think they're just like, keep going, there's 20. Keep going, 20. But there's not a risk.
So here's what I'll tell you. He would argue, and a lot of biologists would, they would say, there's this theory called the optimal foraging theory. It says that animals will expend the least amount of energy to get the most amount of food. All right, so over time, they're expending a lot less energy to get more food. And so here's where it gets interesting, though, is that to sort of bring it back to why do people fall into this, why would someone bet their entire fortune on a roulette wheel or whatever, is that when he will put pigeons in a sort of wild environment, so where he keeps them is in these pigeon cages where they kind of live alone. It's a basic cage. When he puts them in a cage that mimics the wild, so it's this giant cage that has like roosts, it's got cliffs, it's got other pigeons. It's very much like they would have to live in the wild. And then he throws them back to choose a game. They start choosing the optimal game.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,